You've done research on mental well-being through much of your career. How has your research affected government policy?
Well, we've been able to show that the biggest single cause of misery in the society is mental illness. It's much more important than poverty or unemployment or physical illness. And this, I think, has helped to raise the profile of this. Now, of course, other people have shown that there's something you can do about it as well. The clinical psychologists have done a wonderful job with their random controlled trials to show that we can achieve 50% recovery rates for people who have mental illness. But unfortunately, that didn't persuade anybody to fund it. So then economists like myself have had to come in and show that if you could get people who had not been able to work because of depression or anxiety disorders back into the labour market, you would save so much on incapacity benefit and lost taxes that it would repay in full the cost of the psychological therapy. Another more recent discovery has been a medical one, that actually mental illness makes people more ill physically. So we can also show now that if we give more psychological therapy, that will be fully repaid in saving on physical healthcare costs. These are very powerful arguments which have raised the whole profile and led, for example, in Britain to the rollout of the Improving Access to Psychological Therapies programme.
Can you say a little bit more about that programme, what it does and what kind of effect, what results and success it has?
The programme is to make available to all who need it the evidence-based psychological therapy, which is recommended by NICE but not available. So when NICE recommend things in the physical health area, they generally get carried out. In the mental health area, they haven't been. And we've been able to get that now progressively dealt with. But it's a very long program because we're talking about 6 million people with depression and anxiety disorders. We are now up to treating about 900,000. We've trained 6,000 therapists in evidence-based therapy. And the great thing is we know that this is not a black hole because we know the results by a really startling modern technique of not just asking people at the beginning and end how they are, but asking them session by session, so that if they disappear, we know exactly where they've got to, had they got better or worse. And this, of course, helps to guide the therapy as well. So this is an evidence-based program run with a service in each locality, led by an eminent therapist. People have their careers within the service, they can prove themselves, and there's proper quality control, which there isn't in all psychological therapy. The success rate is 50% recovery within the period of treatment, and reduced rate of relapse, though that we know from other studies, not from our own. But the nearly 50% recovery rate, which you get in clinical trials, has been reproduced in the field with now something like 400,000 patients being given 2 or more treatments within the program. So that's a very satisfactory recovery rate.
How possible would that programme have been without social science research?
Well, in a way it's sad because, of course, the main argument has been the one from clinical psychology. You can call that social science or not, as you like. But in fact, it didn't make the impact without the economic case being made in parallel with it. And that is what made the impact on the government in 2008, because of course they're very worried about the number of people on incapacity benefit. But we've been at pains to stress that is, from our point of view, a side effect of what should be provided on humanitarian grounds, which also we show from social science. And if it makes governments more willing to play along, well, we'll use it.
Okay. So that's a very good example of how social science research, psychological research has led to this very important programme within the mental health area. Can you think of any other examples of where research has led to some change in policy or practice?
Well, and we've also set in motion a reform of the child mental health services, which again were not very heavily evidence-based. And this has been powered, of course, by the evidence that children who have what the clinicians call conduct disorder in childhood, especially if they have it before the age of 10, are highly likely to cause a lot of trouble as criminals in later life, a lot of costs in terms of the criminal justice system, the prisons, and so on. So that has also been used as an argument for helping troubled children. And of course, it's quite interesting. It's had the effect that there is more help for those children who are troubled in their behaviour than for those children who are troubled inside themselves and unhappy but behave okay. And it's now a big struggle to get adequate provision for them because our well-being research, we start from life satisfaction and we then see what explains it. If you go back to childhood, what are the factors which explain whether a person becomes an adult who is satisfied with their life? Number one, their emotional health as a child. Number two, their behaviour as a child, but less important. And number three, even less important, their academic performance as a child. These are not the current priorities. But of course there is a strong movement in the educational world to try and rebalance schools towards the development of character as well as of academic competence.
Do you think that government, the authorities, use social science research enough?
No, of course. We want governments to make the well-being of the population their central objective and to derive their priorities from how different policies might contribute to well-being. First thing, we've got the British government to measure the population well-being. That's the first step, using the measures we proposed. These have been adopted by the OECD now. We've got the UN interested. We've produced 2 World Happiness Reports, which our group have been involved in writing and editing. And now we've got an interesting commission chaired by the former Cabinet Secretary about how would the British government, if it were really to take well-being as its objective, how would it reorganise itself and its activities and its methods of policy selection. So it's beginning, but it's a beginning. I do personally think that if we keep on at this, within 25 years, there will be a completely different way of thinking about government policy, not this crazy macho way of thinking, we must show that we are economically vibrant, whatever it does to our mental health, our family life or anything else. But like some companies are beginning to do, to rethink that there is actually a bit more to life than pure productivity. And actually, you're not even sure of being productive if your mind is all over the place. So there's a great groundswell of the public mood, which we've tried to push along also by something called Action for Happiness, which is a popular movement, which I've been involved with others in getting off the ground.
Is it then important to fight for the social sciences so that they have this power to influence?
Of course it is. At the moment, a lot of priorities are just picked out of the air or just there by inertia because of they were always there without anybody knowing how much they actually contribute to human well-being. I think that we will be able to get a more and more rational form of policy making as the research goes forward. I would like to say, which I have said to our Economic and Social Research Council, that I think to determine with much more precision and care the processes by which well-being is determined is probably the top priority for social science research now. I don't think I've won that argument, But I very much hope that that argument can be won, because if we don't have the information base, of course we can't make well-being the objective.
How important do you think a campaign like this is for social science well-being?
I think this campaign is extraordinarily important. To have a rational basis for policy making, we must have a strong, vibrant local social science, and that's why this campaign is so important.